Ladies and gentlemen, I have excellent news to share.
What's that?
Big news.
You seem really excited.
Honestly, it's the best news of 2020 has arrived. We have a vaccine.
No.
Not for corona, but for AIDS.
No way.
Yes.
AIDS?
Wow.
We've been fighting the battle against AIDS for decades.
Right.
Millions of people have died all over the world.
Uh-huh.
And Donald Trump announced today that we have an AIDS vaccine.
My God.
So not only did he announce we have an AIDS vaccine, but he went into detail about how it saves so many people and all it takes is a pill.
Yeah. So there's one pill and it's an AIDS vaccine. That's it. You take a pill, there's a vaccine for AIDS.
There's going to be a lot of empty billboard space in West Hollywood and Hollywood.
Yeah, because there's so much money.
In prevention.
Yeah. Elton John's Oscar party is for AIDS research.
Yeah.
And
Trump.
It's all... we
don't need it anymore.
We don't need it anymore.
Let's find a new disease.
He's literally... Elton John needs a new cause. So Donald Trump announced today there was an AIDS vaccine. There obviously is not an AIDS vaccine. He doesn't even know what AIDS is.
No.
I don't know if he knows the difference between HIV, AIDS.
So I think his only bookmark, because he knows celebrity, is he's like Magic Johnson's alive and lives a very healthy life, an active life.
Yeah.
So he doesn't put two and two together. Like maybe he didn't actually graduate from HIV to AIDS.
Yeah.
He just put it all as one.
Yeah. I mean, or he just doesn't give a shit. And he, like we started this podcast announcing that there's a vaccine for AIDS, there are probably people in certain communities that are very excited about this new vaccine and they're going to, recklessly have sex with everyone they know and don't care.
If you've seen the kind of like the jaywalking version of the Trump supporters at the rallies, those people are now convinced AIDS is solved. It's done.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's the same people that thought Obama was born in Kenya. Yes. Now AIDS is gone.
AIDS is gone. Obama's in Kenya. They're off to a great start. So at least we're starting the week off with some great news.
Just for context, just so everyone, if you don't know, HIV has become a disease that is actually livable if treated aggressively early on. If you can treat HIV before it becomes AIDS, they've proven, Magic Johnson's a perfect famous example, that you can live a healthy life.
So that's the good news. There's no actual vaccine that prevents you from getting AIDS.
Correct.
Okay.
Wow.
Now we've clarified that. The other clarification was in regards to the Rayshard Brooks video that got released in Atlanta. I think I'd mentioned that it was he was getting pulled over for drunk driving. It was actually because he was sleeping in his car. Is that correct?
Yeah, he was sleeping in his car. The cops gave him a field sobriety test. He blew over the limit, and then that's when everything went south.
Yeah.
So this is where policing is, like, you can use common sense and be a good police officer.
Put him in Uber.
He's asleep in the car. He's not trying to be a threat to society.
Yeah.
Put him in an Uber, call a family member. Like, is the purpose of police to protect the community or aggravate the community?
Aggravate. It's funny you say that because we have the district attorney candidate in Los Angeles on next episode of Group Chat.
Oh, it's going to be a big one.
Yeah. I mean, I have a lot of questions for this guy.
Yeah, he's running.
He's running.
Against the incumbent.
Yeah. Incumbent in LA is Jackie Lacey, who obviously has a horrendous reputation. So I'm excited to get into that. But, we've been hearing a lot of more talk on a lot of the police issues in this country. And you keep, the defund the police mantra keeps coming up everywhere and people are now explaining it. It kind of makes sense the way, I think the example was Camden, New Jersey, where they pretty much broke down the fired everyone and rebuilt a police system that works for that community, saw record reduction in crime and murders and hired people locally. This can be fixed. This is actually a fixable problem, unlike AIDS, which we have not figured out how to vaccinate.
Yeah.
We can fix this police issue. It is fixable.
So George Cascon, who's coming on the next episode, I've done some reading and done some research. He has some clever solutions. And, there's hope that if we get someone like him, well, let's see what he has to say first.
Yeah, I mean, the first solution is first day of police training. Don't kill black people just cause. Let's go to point number 2.
Go back to point number 1 and read point number 1.
Yes.
Do you get it yet?
Yeah, I mean, Jesus Christ. I mean, this is just crazy. What level of training that we're talking about when it comes to, being a police officer. One of the things I think people don't, there needs to be a severe psychological evaluation, not just physical, not just do you have the intelligence. It's like, are you psychologically fit to...
Yeah, you have to be stress test. Like, how do you react when you're angry?
Yes.
That could probably be, step 1 in training.
Yes. And like give them those situations.
Because I'm sure they're not doing that.
Yeah. And that's where like, we can solve a lot of these problems and get things back on track.
Yeah.
Well, one of the things the police have not been enforcing, which I actually am a believer of, is masks. And now we're seeing across the country, let's really focus in on a place like Florida and a city like Miami, where they have now paused their next phase of reopening due to new rise in coronavirus cases.
But the existing reopen as it is today will maintain.
Will maintain. They're not going to retro, because if they retro, it's a bad sign. You're better off just letting a few thousand people die than actually being wrong. That's how stupid our politicians are.
Because what I've seen in Miami on Instagram, it's a party.
Yeah.
All the hot restaurants, obviously the clubs aren't open, have looked like clubs now.
Yeah.
They have bottle service coming to the tables as if you're getting sparklers at a table at a club, but they're coming to your table at a restaurant where people aren't wearing masks. Everyone's close by.
Yeah.
There's no way from the videos I've seen that they've enforced whatever capacity restrictions are at some of these restaurants.
Yeah, all they're doing is pick a restaurant in Miami. They're probably at like 10 o'clock. This dinner reservation minimum spend is $10,000.
Yeah.
And so effectively you're going to buy a table. You're going to get served liquor. You're going to just dance in your own little area, whatever. But these restaurants have just found their loopholes on how they're continuing to make money. And, even in LA, there's a club called Penthouse. It's like a outdoor, indoor, I think, situation.
Yep.
I've never been there. And they were charging some enormous dollars for tables over the weekend on Sunday, and I saw the video of it. It's people partying.
It was slammed.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely felt like it was lighter, but we still see this as a severe issue in this whole kind of movement, because there's something about the masks that are driving people nuts. Like, no one wants to wear one.
I really don't get it. How hard is it to wear a mask when you're around people that aren't your close family or people that you've been kind of quarantining with?
For me, it's not hard. But it's clearly, it's becoming, one, it's a political issue, right? So like only liberals wear masks.
Yeah.
Is what the view is.
Us coastal elites.
Yeah. We think, who are buying into the hoax.
A mask can solve other issues other than corona.
Yes.
Believe it or not, the common cold,
Yeah.
the flu.
Yeah. I'll be honest, I haven't been sick or had an inkling of being sick or tired like I normally am all year.
Yeah, because you're not around germs.
Yeah. And I'm wearing a mask. And the fact that after all this time, we are still struggling. And, I got reached out to people in Texas, people in Florida have reached out to me saying in their communities, people are wearing masks and are abiding by social distance. The problem is it's in these hyper social settings like restaurants and bars. So like even in Scottsdale, there's seen this huge spike. There's a picture of like one of those clubs in Old Town Scottsdale or bars slammed with people. So it's really the party, because the Lake of Ozarks that was in Missouri, that was a party. It's the party pictures and videos we are seeing that are actually, I think, hurting the narrative.
I think Taylor is in Austin. We talked to him behind closed doors yesterday. He said no masks.
Yeah.
Bars have lines.
Yeah. So it's are we kind of hinting that it is a young person social bar problem, whereas everybody else is still maintaining some sort of...
No, absolutely not. Look at Orange County.
Yeah.
Look at the boaters.
Yeah, the boaters aren't going to wear it.
I mean, everyone in... Every video we've seen in Orange County, from Huntington Beach to Newport Beach, they're not wearing masks.
Yeah, I mean, I don't...
And that's 40 miles from here?
Not even.
Yeah.
30 miles probably to the tip of Orange County. Yeah, I think I don't... Are you seeing people wear masks, Pete, in your community of idiots?
Just like out and about, or in what?
Like when you and your friends go somewhere, do you guys wear a mask till you get to the point?
No, we have masks.
Okay.
No, you are wearing it. So before
Not to the point. We only wear it when we're required to. So if we are entering a restaurant, you need to put it on and enter the restaurant until you sit down. Up to that point, we won't wear it.
Okay, so the day you went to that pub in Santa Monica,
right?
Okay, you go to the pub, you have your drinks, and then you go back into the wild. You're at 3rd Street Promenade, whatnot. You're not wearing a mask.
No,
that's the problem.
Yeah.
Well, if you're out and about and not, it's an iffy.
But you're still passing other folks.
You're right.
So those folks could get your droplets if they're right next to you.
Not if they're wearing a mask.
There's that classic image, though. If both are wearing a mask, it's like sub 1%.
Yes.
If one person, it's only like a 30% chance.
If the person who has COVID, is the person that should be wearing the mask more so than the other side. But if both parties are wearing it, then...
Or if Pete's asymptomatic.
Yeah. I mean, we got him tested, so he was fine.
We're good. I'm negative.
Yeah, right now you're negative.
Right now, I was going to say.
Yeah, we're gonna
you were negative last week.
Yeah.
Let's be clear.
And then the day after, I was like, we're back, baby.
Yeah, so I think this mask thing will continue to be an issue. The Arizona congressperson, was talking about how do we enforce this. To me, I think what's going to happen is that this whole situation, the cases are going to explode. There will be increased in illnesses, some mild increase in deaths. And I think the mask movement will actually come to fruition. Like, I think it'll become like some sort of a policy, maybe even enact some sort of law, because you can't enact the shutdown again. No one's going to go file. When you look at the numbers in hindsight, shutdown, if you forget the fact that shutdown is the reason why we have low numbers, most people can't comprehend that. They just said, "What? There's no one has it, no one died. Who cares?" And that's how their view is.
Yep.
But I think you can potentially enact some sort of enforcement via wearing a mask.
Yeah. So the way I see it is, the virus obviously isn't going to go anywhere. We're going to have just disparity around the world on which countries are more affected than others.
Yeah.
The Asian countries have taken this the most seriously.
Yeah.
So Taiwan's been largely fine.
Yeah.
I know Japan had some spikes, but largely fine. Korea under control.
Yeah.
Singapore, they're still on lockdown.
China had their first trade show last week with tens of thousands of people wearing masks.
Yeah. So I think in the U.S., we're just going to have the majority of the population refusing to wear masks, and our cases will just be higher and continue to be higher than everywhere else. We'll have more deaths, but the percentage of death, I think, is what's empowering people now, because they're realizing that the fatality rate is actually much lower than we thought a month ago, and treatments are getting better.
Yeah.
So you tell someone you have a sub 1% chance of dying, but go for it.
Yeah, because their argument, which I can get hit by a car, I can hit blah blah blah. There's a million ways people can die. So I think that people are now comfortable with that. And that's why I think ultimately it'll be every person's decision on how they operate. And they'll be fine with the consequences of it.
Yeah, as long as no one's complaining in 6 months.
And look, we've opened up. People are getting it. And we're not hearing people complain.
Right, because the people that are in those cities are like, don't ever shut me down again.
Yeah, because they'd rather, I'm like, all right, whatever. I'll just be vomiting blood for 3 weeks. That's fine. But don't ever shut me down.
Yeah, I think that's where we're going to end.
Earlier we were talking about how there was an AIDS vaccine. Now the famous hydroxychloroquine that Trump says he takes every single day has been revoked by the FDA for emergency use for COVID-19 disease. It is no longer reasonable to believe the two drugs may be effective in treating COVID-19. This is the FDA's chief scientist. So Trump has saying that he's still taking this. He was a big believer in it, and now it is banned.
Sounds about right.
Yeah.
And I hope he actually... What are the odds he actually ever took one dose of this? Zero?
No.
No chance,
no way.
right?
No.
Why would he just take some random chemical?
Why?
Yeah, no one would.
No. Nobody in their right sane mind would.
Speaking of that, there's this... so Melinda Gates came out and said, in regards to the vaccination, that because of the way African Americans are being affected by coronavirus, because they're seeing a huge spike in those communities, that they want to give the vaccination priority to that community, to the Black community.
Okay.
So the Black community, I mean, a small group of them on Twitter have said, fuck you, do not.
This is part of the conspiracy.
Yeah,
they're coming after us.
Yeah, this is a way, let's vaccinate Black people first, and they're the guinea pigs for this.
I'll happily take an early vaccine if people want to turn it down.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of people that would take in line to get this vaccination, especially if it's coming out of the Gates Foundation.
Of course.
I'd rather get their
Trusted
vaccine.
source.
Yeah, I'd rather get their vaccine than the U.S. government's. But I think it'll be continue to be interesting how we treat what's the vaccination process. And there's a new drug that came out of the UK. It's a low dose steroid treatment called dexamethasone. Is apparently given to people that are on ventilators, and it cut the risk of death by a third of those types of patients.
It's a lot.
And it's a relatively inexpensive drug. So like the entire treatment dosage was 40 pounds. So what is that, $50? And so that's really interesting that, like, I think realistically, we're going to find treatments pretty quickly.
Yep.
Because there's a lot of people working on that. And then vaccination will take time.
Because it's easier to figure out how do you keep someone's oxygen levels high when they're completely debilitating. Easier than a vaccine, because vaccine actually solve the problem. Yeah. These are like isolated issues within the body that are complicated by corona.
Yeah.
So lung support and then, controlling someone's fever and all this stuff is actually solvable with medications that are actually nothing to do with corona. It's just how do you solve severe lung problems?
Exactly. And so I think that's where we'll see an enormous amount of progress quickly. And then we'll have to see, the vaccination thing. I mean, it's a moonshot. I still think it's a moonshot. I know everyone's like, by October, we'll have vaccination.
The only thing is we've never in the history of the world seen singular. Everyone's working on one problem, and there's trillions of dollars going into it. So many advanced.
Think about AIDS.
Governments.
Think about until today there was no vaccine.
But the governments, right? But it took AIDS never shut down the global economy. This actually did.
I think it was pretty scary in the 80s, from what I read.
I think it's because of the unknown.
Yeah.
Similar to where we were in March with this, but this actually affected everyone, all races, all genders.
Yeah.
All over the world, rich, poor, didn't matter. And that's why I think treatments are happening at lightning speed. And the only optimism for vaccine is just the whole world's working on this.
Yeah.
Because we can't afford another shutdown or even these phase one reopenings, despite what you see with the stock market, it's still crippling the economy.
Yeah.
Restaurants can't make money with the seating that we're allowing.
The economy's still in bad shape.
Yeah.
Speaking of breakouts, Beijing reported another lockdown because of a fresh cluster of novel coronavirus cases. And some of it is saying also coming from a food market. They're saying 36 new cases on Monday. Here's the thing is it's this market sells meats and seafood and fruits and vegetables, has been shut down since Saturday. They're taking what they call wartime measures to contain this. I mean, they haven't really been transparent in the information they've been sharing. So I don't know what this even means, if it's real or if it's fake. But the fact that it's out is kind of interesting.
Yeah, and why aren't we just banning wet markets? We know wet markets are a problem.
We can't do anything.
No, but that could, make it part of the trade deal.
Yeah.
Ban your wet markets. Ban the spread of really awful diseases that come from live animals that aren't.
You might get the "my body, my wet market" people out in China feeling otherwise. Like those people might be like, "Ban my wet market, kill me."
Right. Yeah. I mean, we have people saying equally dumb things here.
Yeah. I mean, like, there might be, true woke liberals that say you can't ban wet markets for Chinese people.
Well, but ultimately, at least China can control their population.
Yeah. So I'm just interested to see that they've taken the strictest, like, draconian measures to stop the virus, and it's still around. They're obviously a huge country population.
And the population's insane.
Yeah.
I mean, we've never even heard of Wuhan, and it has 20 million people.
Yeah.
Which is bigger than New York City and LA.
Yeah. I agree. I understand there's the density population issue. It's just, country like China. I mean, I would love everyone I know that was living there isn't there anymore, except true native Chinese people. So I can't get the lowdown of like what is life in China, because the life that they want to tell you is that everything's back to normal. So it's hard to understand like what is China life look like, because that's probably a good indication of where we're heading.
So if you look at a proxy Hong Kong, life isn't what it used to be, but you're allowed to walk around, go to restaurants.
Yeah.
I think some bars are open. It's seemingly normal because what you had was strict lockdown. Like right now, even though we're still phase 2 of the reopen, whatever it is in LA, still a lot of stuff's closed. It feels somewhat normal because what we were used to in March and April was everything was closed.
Yeah. And that's what I think the beauty of
We've
the
just rebarred our expectations.
Yeah. And I think that's actually good. One, for the phased reopening, but for society in general, we have lower expectations of like gratitude now. I mean, everyone has been hyping up going to a restaurant. That is the biggest news. Everyone's like, I'm going to my first restaurant. I was even talking to Eric Deluxe. I'm like, have you gone to a restaurant? Have you? He's like, nope. He's like, I haven't done anything. He's like, I have no urge. Like even myself, who I'm always a very social person, I don't have the urge yet. Like I want to, but like, I don't really care. Like, I don't know.
I went to one. It was pretty fun.
Yeah. I mean,
outdoor seating, it was great.
I don't doubt that I'll have fun and I'll enjoy it. But for whatever reason, when you don't, have 21 days to change a habit, whatever it is, it's like I've lost.
We've changed our habits.
So many habits of like the idea of going out to a restaurant. To me, I start calculating the risks. And then I was like, do I really want to? Because it's just not. And I'm still being cautious. I've talked to a lot of our friends who are still being very cautious. They're like, I'll let everyone else kind of go to the first set of restaurants, the first protest, and then in a week or two, I'll start slowly making my way.
So what will make you feel more comfortable? No outbreaks in LA, West Hollywood?
Yeah, I think in like 2 weeks, if all of our friends who went out to eat, they report back, they like the experience, and then no one gets sick, then I'd feel more comfortable.
Got it.
Because I just think...
And that's because you have asthma that you're super concerned?
No, because Haley's pregnant.
Yeah, that's true.
That's the main reason, is that if I go out and just because I want to go grab a cocktail and she gets sick, it's like not a good look.
Yeah, it's not a good
look. It's a really bad look. It's a really, really bad look.
Yeah. So that to me is probably the most concerning thing. So we'll see. I'm curious to see how these phased reopenings really kind of happen. On to more global news. China is really fighting everybody. India and China are like essentially in a like a little mini war that just kind of broke out in the last like quietly. Well, in the border of India, China, and Pakistan near the Himalayan mountains, where this territory has been disputed for I don't know how many thousands of years over this region of Kashmir, and where Himalayan mountains kind of break up all those countries. And apparently there was a skirmish that took place where China is claiming that Indian soldiers stepped on to cross the border, and it turned into a fight, and India is reporting 20 dead soldiers. And China is reporting 0, but then India is reporting that 45 of their soldiers have died given the
ironic. China says 0 soldiers died,
and what's
so the Indian army just took it on the chin and let their 20 soldiers die.
Yes, that is what China is saying. What's even crazier about this skirmish that's happening is that some of these things have said that there was there's wounds, but there's no guns shot in this region, and then it says clashes in the high elevation Himalayan mountains have increased in recent years, usually consisting of fistfights, rock throwing, and beating each other with sticks when patrol from the two sides encounter. So I read through this article. There's a lot of people indicating that there may not even been gunshots. I don't believe that.
Yeah.
But they just potentially 65 people might have died in a skirmish.
In the Himalayan mountains.
In the Himalayan mountains between India and China.
2 nuclear powers.
We're sitting over here without UFC.
Yeah.
And in the Himalayan mountains, there's fucking UFC going on. Somebody get a television camera up there.
But this is scary because these countries, we don't know what you have. Modi, who's the prime minister of India, he's a super prideful, nationalistic president. Yep. Very much Trumpy.
He's cozied up to Trump.
So
Trump loves the Hindus.
Trump just figured out the AIDS situation. He's going to go back India because America and India always back each other against China. I just don't like where this is all heading.
And I don't like Pakistan just sitting there with their nukes.
Yeah.
And it's not a good situation.
A lot of things boiling up.
That area is, to me, that can quickly become a potential long-term problem. It's always been a problem, but it's for whatever reason maintained generally some peace over the last 50, 60 years since the last time they had a war. I think the last time there was a full-blown war was 1965, I was reading. But it can become like Middle East freaking fast.
Well, I think it's worse because these are organized
nuclear powers.
Yes.
Yeah.
The countries aren't organized, but the government can use the military very quickly if they wanted to.
Exactly. And I think just 65, think about it. Imagine if 20 US soldiers were killed somewhere. We would go to full-blown war tomorrow.
No, the missiles would be flying.
Yes. And so I don't think India is just going to sit back. And if Chinese 45 people really died, they're saying 0, but if 45 people actually died, China is just going to war with everyone. They're literally looking for world domination.
They're it's world imperialism.
Yeah.
That's what they're doing. Slowly take over Southeast Asia.
Yeah.
Get over on the Himalayan mountain, take over India. They already, from an investment perspective, control Africa.
Yeah. They have played the long game. Look, in business, everyone I always tell people to have patience. The Chinese have the most patience. They have quietly, when who is it? Nixon came to China, was the first American president that came there, and they slowly opened up the country. They kept their communism. They allowed people to make money. They allowed manufacturing to come into the country. They started exporting. The entire world depends on China still to this day, and they're quietly becoming the most powerful country in the world.
Yeah, it's similar. You can make the comparison. It's like Facebook become this great company and there are a lot of casualties along the way.
Yeah.
China's become this superpower and there's been a lot of casualties along the way, their own citizens.
Yeah. And the people that eat bats.
People eat bats. Quick mask update because this is how ridiculous it is in the good old US of A. In Stillwater, Oklahoma, there's an emergency order to allow people to enter businesses without masks. After numerous owners and employees are threatened with violence. So the owners and the employees that are trying to enforce the mask rule are getting threatened with violence. So Stillwater, Oklahoma had to say you can walk in without masks for the safety of the business owners. That's the progressive thinking that we have going on over here.
Wow. Oklahoma has really become a hotbed for stupidity.
Big time.
And they're still planning on having their rally. So one of the things that that a lot of people have said that Piers Morgan said it. It may be reckless of President Trump to hold a campaign rally while COVID is ravaging America, but liberal politicians and media who supported Black Lives Matters protests have no right to say it should be canceled on health grounds. I agree with that.
Yeah, I agree with that too.
I think that's totally fine. And I think I prefer that it's done in closed settings in stadiums and no masks.
Just let it ravage the population.
No, that's up to them. They don't believe it. It's not real. So go get a stadium in Oklahoma, fill it with their I think her name is Kayleigh Henry, the White House
press
secretary. And Trump have said they've had 1 million people request tickets for this first Oklahoma rally. 1 million people. So 1 million people want to come to Tulsa, Oklahoma to attend the first presidential rally.
I'm trying to get Taylor to go. It's a 7-hour drive from Austin.
Why can't he fly?
That's true. He doesn't care about flying.
Yeah.
He's flown everywhere the last fucking 3 months.
It'd be nice to have him on the ground there.
Oh, that'd be so good. He'd be terrified.
I think he would just put on a hat and start cheering.
Oh, yeah. 100%.
USA.
100%.
He's like the most easiest person to radicalize.
Yeah.
Clearly.
You sent him to the Middle East. He joins the Hezbollah. Like, he's out of control. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. We'll have to see, but I think that that rally is going to be a really big turning point for events in general. Because if the event happens in a closed area, then everyone else is going to be like, why can't we have an event?
Yeah, and like you said, the people that are lining up don't believe in the virus, think it's a hoax, don't believe in masks because Trump doesn't wear a mask.
Yep.
So, yeah, I think that's how the country is going to be. It's going to be to each their own.
Yeah.
Everyone choose to do what you want.
Well, funny you say that, to each their own. There's a new poll that came out. Americans are the unhappiest they've been in 50 years. Happiness is plummeting. The interesting statistic on this is that they have 3 gauges in this poll. Very happy, pretty happy, not too happy.
Where's everyone landing?
Yeah. So 29% of Americans, so in the history of the poll since 1972, no less than 29% of Americans have ever called themselves very happy. So very happy people are in the 30% range usually. 14% of American adults right now say they're very happy, down from 31% 2 years ago. So what does very happy mean? Like, I don't know if I've ever been, I'm a happy person, but very happy? That's very happy.
Yeah, it seems like a very subjective poll. Like, what's the criteria of being happy versus very happy?
Pete, are you very happy?
I'm generally happy, but not like very happy. Like, I'm nothing to be mad about or sad about.
Yeah, so I think you're pretty happy.
Yeah, I'm pretty happy.
You're pretty happy.
I'm not like, holy shit, I'm living the best.
Taylor could be very happy.
No.
Taylor could be.
He could be.
But he
chooses
won't.
not
He won't allow
to.
himself
Yeah,
to.
he won't allow. Yeah,
No.
We had a conversation, Pete and I, that he like should be like very happy, but he chooses not to be.
So he could be the not too happy crowd. Yeah. Not too happy.
I mean, the way he changes his life on a dime, I can't imagine him being very happy.
Yeah, I mean, pretty happy is pretty high right now. 60+% of the population, according to this poll, are pretty happy. Very happy crowd has been cut in half.
I think the pretty happy crowd is like the pandemic started, their life got minimized, they were kind of thrown off the first month, and then they're like, this isn't that bad.
The pretty happy crowd is like, I would have loved to gone on the cruise, but I'm still getting to golf. I'm pretty happy.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, like, it's just an interesting thing. Like,
this was in the last 3 months, or what is this timeline?
This poll was asking Americans pretty much in the last month. Okay. And then they even asked a question. So in 2018, percentage of Americans that felt isolated. So 9% of people felt isolated. In 2020, 23% of people feel isolated. And then often feel isolated. And then now it's 27% sometimes feel isolated. So 50% of the population has some feeling of isolation, which honestly, given that we were in quarantine and shutdown, I don't think that's that bad.
No.
I mean, it should be a higher number in my.
But I mean, you're connected cross social. Like I think we all can say we had Zoom calls with people that we probably haven't talked to in forever or long periods of time. That's like,
yeah, and so typically this number between often isolated and sometimes is 23%. So it's effectively doubled during the pandemic. And then felt left out, which is an interesting one. Less than, I think, like 22% normally feel left out. 2020, it's at 37%. I mean, obviously you feel left out.
I gotta imagine the kids like 18 to 22 are the hardest hit.
No, I think high school kids are.
Well, the reason why I say 18 to 22, because your alternative at 18 to 22 is to be out of the house. You weren't out of the house at 14 or 15 or 16. So, and you don't have the money to go live on your own. So you're forced isolation with your parents who you probably don't want to be around. And you're forced into these family dinners and they're forcing you to enforce some sort of quarantine because they don't want to die.
Yeah.
Obviously the 18 to 22 year old doesn't give a shit.
Yeah.
But I think that demo, like if you're 25 and you live on your own already, like no one's telling you how to quarantine.
Well, I talked to a friend of mine that has 3 kids that I think he has like, he has 3 boys, but I think 2 of them are like 8 and 10 and they're very active, big personalities. They play sports. He said that they're probably depressed. Like,
and how old are they?
Like 8, 10 years old.
Really?
What?
Because their life is so social between school, activities, sports. He's like, they're in travel basketball leagues and this and that. And like all of it's shut down. Can't see their friends.
Yeah.
Like they see like one group, one family is the only one they're interacting with.
So ironically, this virus is killing 2 generations.
Yeah.
Older people because of the health crisis, younger people because of the mental crisis.
Yeah. I think the I don't know what the damage of the last 6 months is going to be. And it may be very minimal because once life reopens, everyone just kind of goes back. But we know what we're seeing now is things aren't going back quickly as planned. So like every family, like there are families that we are friends with, they don't want to interact with anyone because they want to see their grandparents. So they're like, we're cool with not seeing anybody, not interacting with other kids because we want to spend time with our family. And that's the decision they've made.
Sure.
So I don't, I think you mentioned University of Wisconsin's opening back full on for classes, right?
In the fall.
So like that'll be a great test. Like what percentage of the population comes back?
Yeah, especially for school. I mean, a lot of them were talking about taking the semester off or the year off for the sake of campus possibly not opening or being half open or, things like that.
So are they opening with any new rules? Like are dorms just as
I'm
German
assuming
festive?
there'll be guidelines, but they're welcoming students back to campus in the fall.
Like dorm living.
I didn't get into I'll check on more of the details, but
I mean, the average college dorm is disgusting.
Disgusting impact, one on top of
you
the
have
other.
Like bathrooms shared by like 20, 30 people, showers shared by 20, 30 people.
I know I was hearing at one point that campus or on campus living was going to be excluded.
The amount schools charge, you can't give people proper bathrooms and toilets.
I know.
Like especially at like USC, it's $50,000 a year. Does not come with a toilet. Basic sanitation.
It comes with a toilet.
That's shared by
communal. It's a communal
and some
toilet.
of the newer dorms at Wisconsin, they have much smaller shared bathrooms where it's only like between you and your roommates. Maybe you have like 3 roommates compared to like the communal.
The entire floor.
Right. That's disgusting.
I got lucky.
And I know the room and board is separate than tuition, but room and board is like living in Manhattan, New York City.
Room and board is insane.
Yeah.
At any major
these
college.
universities are such profit centers. We've always known that, but it's a joke.
It's just now that we've put a real kind of magnifying glass on it. Interesting to see how they actually adapt, because if they can't provide students a safe environment, I don't think parents are going to send their kids, because it's not the kid's decision. It's the parents'
What do you think
decision.
all these kids do if the majority of them can't go back to campus and are opting out for the semester and or the year?
Well, I mean, some kids will have to work because they need the money. Some kids will
what jobs? Jobs aren't really opening back up.
See, that's the tricky part with that age group, because their parents are the ones who actually are at risk.
Yeah.
Obviously, older generation's even worse, but a 55-year-old's at risk. 60-year-old's at risk.
Yeah.
And they send their kids out in the wild and the kids come home, the kids are going to be fine, but they may not be.
Like, imagine your kid goes to a Wisconsin football game with 100,000 people, and then he's like, "Oh, I'm coming home this weekend after the game."
Oh, like, no.
Or even worse, they lie and don't tell their parents what they're doing because they won't get in trouble.
Yeah.
They don't want to get their allowance cut off. What if the rules are, okay, Pete, you got to go back to Wisconsin, no football games, no sorority parties or fraternity parties.
You know my ass is walking in the first week and going to everybody, hitting every football game.
Yeah, how are you going to stop a 19-year-old from listening if you think kids don't listen?
We can't tell a Karen to wear a mask inside of a Costco.
Yeah, you're not telling a 19-year-old to abide by any rules their parents are saying, because then they're going to come home for spring break, 3 dead.
Yeah.
3 dead at the Pete household.
Just dropping like flies over here.
Yeah, I mean, I think
it's tricky because like our generation, I'm 36 years old. Most of my friends are married. A lot have kids, and with the exception of obviously seeing our parents, which obviously we take super important to us, you can kind of live like pretty cautiously and still live somewhat of a normal life.
Yeah, I agree. I mean. Like, I'm not on the very happy checklist. I'm pretty happy, and I'm happy. I'd be pretty happy if this was the rest of my year. Like, I'm not.
Pete, that's where Pete loses a notch. Yeah. We can redo this poll in 2 months.
I mean, for me, but like, yeah, for me, for my daily life, like, I'm fine with it. Like, what am I really missing out on? Like, Pete, you have a lot of life to live. I've seen everything. Yeah. I'm good.
Yeah. I need to travel still more. I need to party more.
Yeah, I mean, I've knocked off almost all of Asia. May never go back.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have any FOMO over doing anything.
Sure.
I would love for our run club to come back. Those are things that I miss. I do like human interaction in places like the office and stuff. I miss that stuff, but like,
I mean, we spent 15 years in clubs. Yeah, if we don't go to clubs again, it's probably not the end of the world.
So we'll have to see. I think the reopening will continue to be a very fascinating thing to watch. So there was a landmark case yesterday in the Supreme Court, and it was delivered with a watershed moment, and it is a right for LGBTQ individuals, which now account for more than 7 million individuals in this particular opinion, is that you cannot be discriminated because of sex. So, which
seems like a pretty basic right.
Insane. When I read this, I'm like, people are still discriminating people for work purposes because of their sexual orientation.
What's even more pathetic is the decision was 6-3. So there's 3 that still aren't on board.
Well, your boy, I like beer. Kavanaugh was against it.
Oh, God.
Clarence Thomas was against it.
Yep.
I mean, and obviously this was, I think, more into certain states that kind of were still allowing this. It wasn't, I think in California, this is not an issue, but like there's several other states that were affected by this law. So I think that's obviously in a positive light, but it's just we're so far away from basic civil liberties for so many people in this country. When you really look at thinking about the Constitution, the amendments, the way laws are written, they were written for a different time. I can't believe that there aren't more politicians trying to update these documents.
And what got the right really pissed is a Trump-appointed Supreme Court judge went with the liberal-leaning side, saying that, no, you should be treated like a human.
Yeah.
What a novel concept.
Yeah.
All humans should be treated equally. And we have Supreme Court rulings to decide this?
Yeah. I mean, and then Trump said they've ruled and we live with the decision. We live with the decision of the Supreme Court.
I mean, you have to. There's no further court.
This is it. They're Supreme. And it's just insane to me that, like, I can't even believe, like, we have to celebrate this. Because there are states that were still discriminating people based on sexual orientation. It is just, I mean, like the amount of battles that we have to fight to normalize basic lives for people, we're so far away. Like when I look at all the things, like when you're starting a business, you look at like, oh man, what is it going to take to be successful? And it feels daunting. What is it going to take for everyone to be treated fairly? It feels impossible.
Yeah. I mean, we've talked about how we need to divide and conquer.
Yeah.
Like think about how many groups are still dealing with just terrible things. The fact that this even had to go to the Supreme Court is pathetic. And I don't know. What do you think? So obviously there's been a lot of progress, I'd say, from 1980s to like the 2000s.
What progress?
No, just, I mean, it was much worse in the 80s than it was in 2000s, right?
Okay.
Like just everything from just integration in society. Like, I mean, even gay people in the 80s, that was completely taboo, right? In 2000s, it started to become more normalized, right? Yeah. But I feel like the rate of progress from like 2010 to 2020 hasn't, like, I don't know, 10 years ago, what was different? What progress have we made in 10 years?
Yeah, I mean, I think
we've made a lot of progress in 20 years.
Yeah.
I feel like that rate of social progress has declined.
Yeah.
Like the rate of change.
I think a lot of that has to do with, there was a time in the country where a lot of our best and brightest were interested in politics and social change, and that went away. And our best and brightest went into technology. They went into finance. So we don't get the smartest people in society trying to solve social problems. The only time we get the best and brightest is when they're so wealthy that they've dedicated their time. The Bill Gates of the world, who are now like interested in actual change in our society. I think what's happening between the protest, the pandemic, income inequality, I think there's going to be this like whole movement of young people that are going to enter the political workforce, the policy workforce, and really start making changes, because like they've seen their friends, their families suffer, and they're just like, fuck this. Like, I'm over this. I know now, one person can change something. Because we saw it. Donald Trump, one person became president. He didn't even he just decided on a whim and became president.
Like I would imagine, and like if you went in the 1990s and you pulled the law school at Georgetown or Harvard, how many just want to be president or governor? And I bet you that percentage was like so much higher than if you went to the law school in 2020 and asked them who's actually entering into politics. Yeah. Wouldn't you think?
Yeah. I think this era makes going into politics not desirable. Like,
or to your point, maybe people are actually going to be invigorated.
Now. I'm talking in the last 90 days. Yes, that's changed. But the last 10 years, I mean, if you're a really sharp, ambitious person, you can go make money, and that always becomes more interesting. And that's why we're not getting our best and brightest in politics. Like or people that want to impact change. It just because we as a society prioritized showing your wealth as the most important thing. So that's all everyone wants to do. A young person only cares about making money.
But I feel like that might actually change. Like, I don't think... So I think our generation was purely driven by money. Everyone I know...
We were guarding geckos.
Yeah, everyone I know chose the path that they thought would make them the most money. Period. End of story. Across the board.
Yeah.
Why'd you guys go into clothing?
Great question.
At the time...
At the time, people were making a lot of money.
People were getting rich off clothing. If you go look at some of the richest people in the world, Zara, all these people, they're apparel.
Yeah.
Phil Knight, one of the richest men in the world, is from selling shoes and T-shirts.
Yes.
You think young people today
care less about money, and the only reason why, and this is purely just speculation, is that young people today, there's a good chance their families didn't participate in this wealth creation of the last decade.
Yeah.
So they already feel like they were left out.
Yeah.
And they feel like the deck stacked against them, and their family struggled, they already have accepted, like, I'm not participating, and they're more interested in different things. Like, I feel like our generation, especially anyone in their mid to late 30s or early 40s, everyone was driven by money. Yeah. I didn't even know what investment banking was, and I just knew it paid the most, so I went and did it.
Yeah.
That's literally the only reason.
Yeah, that's true. And I hope you're right, because it's going to, the generation that's leaving college or just left college, they're the ones that are going to lead the country, because our generation are greedy pigs.
Yep.
We're not going to do anything. Let's just be honest. Most of our peers aren't going to step up to the plate and help society. Yeah. There are a handful of people that will. There will be we have our friends and we have our people in our community that are going to be the do-gooders, but it's not innately in our blood.
Yeah, you look at the people protesting, it's young people.
Yeah.
It's a young, diverse crowd that's standing up for a disenfranchised group.
Yeah.
Which is crazy, positive.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a really good sign, and I think the protest combined with the pandemic is going to create a lot of new leaders and a new culture. I'm really curious if this hyper-capitalist, like, show-off culture dies.
I hope it does.
I mean, obviously, I'm not a fan of it. I think it's horrendous. I think it's bad for people's self-esteem, because that's what they think success is. I got onto Facebook when I was 26 years old.
It was my senior year of college when I got on. So it's 2004 is where USC got accepted.
Yeah.
You know how they rolled it out to the Ivy Leagues?
And I got it. I think I got on 2006.
Yeah, because you
couldn't even get on.
Yeah, when you had to have a USC or a university email address.
You know what? I might have even been older, because I didn't even get on till way later than everyone's like, you gotta get on Facebook. So I didn't grow up on social media. I grew up with the internet in a very different capacity, as a place where there was creepy chat rooms, and then eventually like a place to get information. But I didn't like the people that I idolized.
You were a MySpace guy.
Was I?
That's what I think your age group was doing.
I wasn't big on, I think, on anything.
No.
Not like how I'm very famous now. It's very different.
Now you're on all platforms.
I'm all platforms all the time. All the time.
You got a new one? I'm on it.
Yeah. But it's very different and interesting to see if this generation, because of the last 4 or 5 months, are they going to change? Like, Pete, do you have any feeling or change on that, or are you just still the same idiot you were 5 months ago?
Well, nothing really technically changed for me, so...
I know, but like, what do you have any sense of like, I need purpose in my life, or do you have any sense of like what you look up to or what your goals are? Have any of those shifted in the last 4 months?
Maybe slightly, but I think that's like ever changing for me, but nothing like drastic where I was like, holy shit, like there was a big pause, but no. So I would say no in general. But it's just like ever evolving where it's just like.
But like in your friend circle, are you guys having discussions of what's going on, or it's just, let's go get some, go chuck some alcohol and let's go find some girls?
No, yeah, generally there's discussion going on, yes.
There is actual discussion.
Yes.
Okay. Because that's important. Because I'll be honest, in my 20s, especially with my LA friends, we didn't ever discuss anything seriously. Only when I went to like DC or San Francisco or New York, where I would be looped into like very heavy discussions about the world. But most of my local friends, it was always about fun and having a good time, and and that's why I loved it.
Yeah.
But
a lot of my friends from home that I've just talked to, we've gone into a deeper conversation because a lot of the friends I have here are fairly more new.
Yeah.
So there's been deep conversations there, but then even the people here, even with the Costa guys, like we've all sat down and have had discussions because it's just kind of like, it needs to happen.
And then do you feel like anybody in your peer group is going to change their career path? They're going to change the way they do things? Or do you think it's just like, we're now aware of it?
More of just aware.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's a start.
I'm also not sitting in like the top % of like kids that come from real big money where it can just kind of like make those quick changes.
Yeah, but it didn't like come to you. You're not going to come to me tomorrow and say, I'm inspired to change. I'm going to join Black Lives Matter and be their content guy.
No.
Okay.
Do you want me to?
No, I'm just kidding. I'm just
You're not happy? Is that what this is? It's a roundabout way.
No, I'm just curious.
Yeah.
Speaking of all the police issues, Donald Trump just signed an executive order on policing. He leads off his conversation. The overall goal is we want law and order, but it's also about justice. So he's the high level thing is, I think chokeholds is one thing that he's kind of trying to get a ban on.
He wants to ban chokeholds as long as the officer doesn't feel threatened. So it's not really anything. What officer that's going to chokehold someone going to say they weren't threatened?
Yeah. So looks like he's doing nothing.
Let's go on to Shake Shack.
Yeah. So it looks like the policy is not a big change. The other thing, this continues to be an issue on these cases that have happened. So Rayshard Brooks, cop that shot him, had been reported 12 times for misconduct, including once for excessive use of force with a gun. So we don't need to spend a whole lot of time here. 12 times. Imagine being at your work and getting written up 12 times and still having a job. 12 times.
12 times is excessive.
Yes. And this person...
But it sounds like a simple solution. Like, why aren't these cops being reprimanded? There's a reason, unions.
Yeah.
You can't, when you're in a union, it is very tough to get fired. So I'll give you a sports example. If a player gets busted for steroids, the players' union has to defend them.
Yeah.
Just blindly.
Yeah.
That's the same thing that's happening. If a police officer is reprimanded for whatever violations, the union will back them and saying, you're not firing them. Unions are really powerful.
Yeah. I mean, the problem is fixing that issue of the union is so hard because they're so damn powerful.
Exactly.
And they probably have dirt on everybody.
And they control elections. Getting the labor union to support a candidate is huge.
Yeah.
It comes with a lot of funding. It comes with guaranteed votes.
Yeah. It's a tough issue.
It's a very complicated issue. So I love the protests. I love the movement and the discussions that are going on. But we need people to actually get granular and understand. That's why I love what DeRay McKesson's doing so much. He's like, okay, let me think of the most actionable thing I can do near term.
Yeah.
And he's going and doing it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's great. Another scenario where the cops lied again is there was a lot of chatter that Shake Shack had potentially tried to hurt a bunch of police officers in Manhattan, New York, contaminated the shakes with bleach. The NYPD has come out and said that that's not the case. There was no foul play. It was just a shitty ass shake.
Yeah, my go-to if you get sick from a fast food restaurant, you're basically risking you're going to get sick every time you attend one of these places.
Yeah, I mean, people eat at fast food and get sick all the time. It's just the nature of that type of cuisine.
You basically are accepting whatever percent chance, the same way people are going to Ozarks thinking they have a shot at corona, but most likely aren't going to get it.
Yeah.
Most likely aren't going to get sick eating fast food, but you're definitely giving yourself a shot.
But this thing became a big deal online that Shake Shack was trying to poison NYPD police officers.
Right.
Obviously, everything got blown out of proportion, and it seems like things have gotten in control. Now we're going to run it out to Pete for an ad.
Guys, welcome back. You didn't like the ASMR, so now I'm going to get angry. I'm going to tell you to go buy Clean Monster. I know you all are dirty out there, so why don't you clean up for once and go grab yourself a 3-pack of Clean Monster's hand sanitizer on Amazon. All you have to do is search it in the search bar. Clean Monster hand sanitizer. Boom. It'll pop up a 3-pack. Shipped to you in 2 days. Get off my back. Thanks. Lavender peppermint. That's the shit I like. All right, let's get back into the episode.
And we're back.
World changing, huh?
It's world's changing.
Wow.
So big news in sports. Roger Goodell is encouraging teams to sign Colin Kaepernick. Great idea. Just do it when no one's going to pick him up. It's great.
Yeah, do it when he hasn't played in 4 years.
Yeah.
I mean, I really hope he doesn't play because it's going to ruin you're going to get the other side to see, like, we told you suck. This had nothing to do with race.
Yeah.
Nothing to do with, he just wasn't good.
Yeah.
Because he's going to suck. I hate to say it. He hasn't played in 4 years.
Yeah. There's no chance he's good at playing football. The only way I feel like he can win this battle is if NFL creates a position and Colin Kaepernick is...
Or if a team hires him as like a quarterback's coach.
Yeah.
Or they allow him to head anything like organization-wise. Like, what did the NBA players just start in the Coaches Association
I really think, this is like a point where Colin Kaepernick needs to decide... Like,
what's his legacy?
Yeah, exactly. Do you really want to play? Your tryout didn't really make it seem like you did.
Yeah.
And you clearly have created so much value in what you originally did. And look at where we are now. And he's getting the rightful credit for that. He can actually do something more impactful. And I don't know where his head's at. But
I really hope he never steps on a football field again.
If he wants to coach. If you want to be around the sport, you can be around the sport because the NFL has to let you in.
Yeah.
Just don't be a player.
Yeah. Like, you want to go catch a Niners game? Go catch a Niners game. Yeah. But don't play. Because if you're not good, it's ruined. Everything is ruined if you're not good. There's just no other way around it. Speaking of football's getting these coaches. I think college football coaches are going to feel the wrath of the players. So Mike Gundy, Oklahoma State head coach, wore a One America News T-shirt during a weekend fishing trip. If you don't know, that's the network that Trump is really pumping up.
Yep.
And his star running back, Chuba, posted a tweet saying, pretty much just saying, like, if things don't change, don't count on me.